Hello and welcome to Not Replaced Yet. My name is Nick Bushkar and I'm here with my brother Jesse. Say hello, Jesse.
What's happening, everybody?
Today we're going to talk about everything that happened last week in the world of AI. And by everything, I mean the most important things. Not everything. That would be impossible. And I think we are going to kick it off by talking about the biggest thing that's happening in AI, in my opinion, and that is the Anthropic story and how they are fighting with the Department of War and OpenAI's role in that. Jesse, do you want to just give us a little overview of maybe a timeline of what occurred?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. I don't have the dates sitting in front of me, but as it stands right now, we're recording this on March 9th. Anthropic has been labeled as a supply chain risk. The first time a private organization has been labeled that, by the government. Basically, they're not using the word terrorists or something, but as an elder millennial from the 9/11 days, like it's basically like branding a company as an enemy of the state. And when all of that happened, that was roughly 2 weeks ago, like right at the end of February. And we were kind of coming down to the wire of this ultimatum that Anthropic had to make the decision, I guess it was, or to get the Department of War to coalesce. And it was around these two specific things, right? It is the Anthropic would not amend their safety concerns around being used for mass surveillance of U.S. citizens. That was just an unbendable rule that they said. And then the other one was around autonomous weaponry. And both of which obviously extreme use cases, very serious. They did not bend. Department of War said, therefore you're not my friend anymore, and we're going to revoke all of your contracts, and we're going to label you as the supply chain risk. And that's kind of a lot has happened since then too, Nick.
Yeah. And so after the fact, one interesting thing is after the fact, it's all mixed up. It's all happening so fast, like everything else in this space right now. And you had Sam Altman on the day of everything going down. It was 2 Fridays ago, I think, at this point. Sam has this long post on X saying how he and OpenAI have come to an agreement with the Department of War. They're going to be used. They came to an agreement saying that OpenAI and the Department of War agreed on their points about mass surveillance and autonomous weapons, although there's some wishy-washiness around that for sure. And then after all of that happened, there was this QuitGPT movement that popped up. There's something like a 295%, maybe even more surge in uninstalls or getting rid of your subscription. I think the last time I looked on the website, it said like there's over 4 million participants in that right now. And then you see a surge in Anthropic's usage because they've been so focused on B2B up to this point, and now there's this huge consumer influx pushing their annual revenue up to something like 20 billion at this point. And so there's so much going on. There's also the safety feature or perspective where when all of this was going down, Anthropic announced that they were ditching their core safety promise, and they have been the leading safety focused firm up until this point. But then Dario Amodei, the CEO founder, went on, I can't remember with which organization it was, did an interview and said that was not so much a memo, but more a thought in Slack, and it got over-reported, and so they may not be ditching that. And so there's just, if you can tell, the thing that I'm taking away right now is that it is messy. There is not I don't think we can take anything as clear-cut in solved or static right now. This is an extremely very variable, sort of fast-moving situation, and next week it will look different than this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm the advertiser perspective in these conversations. And so I think in terms of PR and the national conversation, and certainly as you blend AI into politics and government, it's going to be even more so, like not digging into partisanship, but like this is the administration who has been able to weaponize the news to an unprecedented degree to steer the narrative, steer the conversation. And so if you choose to be against that monolith, that giant snowball of perpetual momentum, as Anthropic was willing to do, they're going to be put on the blacklist. But to me, the blacklist is a very fluid thing, right? Like, we know Anthropic's technology is best in class, like maybe equal best in class with a handful of others. But I think what hopefully will prevail, which is more important now than when some of these tweets were flying around, given the situation in Iran, um, hopefully what we get is the best, most secure AI supporting our military, right? Like, I mean, that would be at a micro level, at an individual soldier level, like that's how I would think of it. And I think it's really easy to change that narrative, that soundbite, in any amount of time, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. If someone comes out and says, well, we've changed because of this, I don't know. It's not going to be a static thing. And yeah, the tweet was written, right? Sam's tweet was written. Like, to come all the way back to that, the game of PR is like the deep negotiation behind the scenes that had to have been having all in parallel. I think, the armchair quarterbacks, both of us are in that group. Like, I don't know. It's a window into the reality. It's not the reality of it, is maybe how I think of it.
Well, I think that is an interesting but actually very appropriate segue into our next story. And that is that GPT-5.4 has shipped. And so it is, OpenAI's biggest model drop so far of this year. I expect there to be many more. And there is, to your point, is it a coincidence that it shipped at this exact same moment in time? Now, I will say, at the end of 2025, we saw the launch of Gemini, and Gemini got so much of the story and the hype of becoming the best-in-class model. And then early on in 2026, we have the launch of Opus 4.6, which then on that exact same, they put out their benchmarks and they were like, look how amazing we are. We're best in class, actually. And then was it even 2 hours later, or however long it was, that then GPT dropped their latest model? And so, one, I think this is simply table stakes at this point. All of the leading AI firms will continuously be fighting with each other for maybe the claimed top spot. That look how good we are on whatever benchmark you want to look at, whether it's software engineering, ArcAGI, etc. And then at the same time, there is the geopolitical layer to this, which is all of the things were happening behind the scenes with the Department of Defense, Department of War, and the administration at hand. And I just have to assume that so much of here's my hot take, right? Is that like, this was an attack. This was planned from OpenAI to try and take over a large portion of Anthropic's very lucrative, not only government contracts, but then also business contracts, because if the government labels you as a supply chain risk, then they claim that you cannot then any business who uses Anthropic's products cannot do business with the Department of War. But then Trump later said it would be anyone doing business with the government. Dario Amadeus says that that's not true, and I'm slipping back into the previous story, but I think all of these things are just intermingled. And so, Jesse, GPT-5.4 shipped. What do you think?
Yeah, no, super interrelated. I think on the model side, like, I use ChatGPT more than you do on a regular basis, right? Like,
I've stopped. I mean, legitimately, not because of all of this, but I am so much. I use Claude. I use Claude Desktop. I use Cowork. I use Claude Code. And I use the Claude app.
One thing I think, and this is a bit of a sidebar, that's super interesting for usage and I think it's so individualized. Like, the reason I stuck with ChatGPT longer was because their native voice input is more reliable, or had been more reliable for a long time than Claude's. And I still use the native voice input, not the live conversation. I used to use that as my primary, and they really water down the intelligence there. But no, 5.4 has really impressive benchmarks and evals, right? Like if you're a benchmark junkie, like how do we know something's smarter in the AI space? Well, there's all these benchmarks, things that grade systematically a given model on n number of facets, coding or quality assurance or real world, math problems, spatial reasoning, things that are harder for humans, things that are easier. There's this like suite of benchmarks, and new ones coming out all the time. And 5.4 performs incredibly across the leading trusted benchmarks. It puts this is not the like technical deep dive on the models and the benchmarks, but it puts GPT-5.4 in the lead for most of them. Like I would say 90% of what I saw. Now, of course, that they publish them, right? Like OpenAI says, here's our release and here's our evals. They're not going to pick ones that they suck on. But of course, evals are only part of it, and then there's the human side of things, the kind of like what's the feel. I technically like Dad asked this question the other day when I was talking to him. Nick and I are brothers. If you're just tuning in, you didn't know this, but Dad was like, "Well, should I care? Like, does this matter to me?" And it's like if you're just an average user and you're not trying to squeeze a lot of like business juice out of these tools, you're not wiring up applications, you're not using them agentically, et cetera, you probably won't notice. I don't know what the like average use case from 5.3 to 5.4 or 5.2 or whatever the hell the naming convention numbers are. But I think for those of you building with these tools, there's a lot of promise. There's a lot of promise that the benchmarks are there. And for me, just 6 months ago, 3 months ago, the sound bites of OpenAI's Cooked were all you could hear. And it doesn't seem like that's the case. They have not slowed down. And their tweet actually, I'm going to paraphrase this. I should have prepped better, as usual. But there was a tweet that I think it was Sam, and he said, "We do not see a wall." Like, we are not hitting a wall with these techniques, these strategies, whether that's, the foundation of RLHF, whether that's reasoning and like all of the different things. Statedly, they say we see no wall. So I don't know. I'm excited about it because it represents an iteration of intelligence and it's still moving forward.
I think that's well said. I think that's a good place to segue then into our next story, which is something that's very interesting to me. And it's that I'm pulling it up over here, there was a record smashing venture capital funding round in a single month, and it was $189 billion. So no other month has seen that much money output by venture capitalists, and 90% of it went to 3 companies, and those companies were OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google specifically to Waymo. And so that is something like what would that be? Something like almost 170 billion of it ish, whatever, went to those 3 companies, and you saw another 20-ish or whatever billion go to smaller companies. And so this is simply the continuation of the Mag 7 or Mag 10, however you want to slice it. That's the Magnificent 7 or 10. The top 7 or 10 companies at the top of the stock market are all essentially AI companies at this point. There might be some energy firms up there too, I forget. But regardless, that is where the entire global economy is centered around right now. And the more money that goes into them, the better the stock market does. It doesn't mean that prices are going up or going down for any given person in America or across the globe or anything like that. But the shareholders of these companies, and actually, let me back out. I'm kind of speaking ahead of myself. It's not even just public companies. That's another crazy part of this, is that some of the biggest companies that exist are private, and we've never seen private companies get this big. Previously, you needed the public markets to get so much capital infusion, but now you don't. But we do hear all the stories about potentially OpenAI going public, Anthropic going public. You had the merger of SpaceX with xAI, and they're potentially going public later this year. So again, just another sort of definitely not static. A very just a fast moving space where money is flowing like never before, but it's very, very concentrated. And it's very much wrapped up into the bubble question. It is what happens to smaller companies? Is there enough liquidity? I would still think yes. I mean, 20 billion is still a healthy amount for any given month for smaller companies, but they're all largely AI. Even if you're in, biotech or material science or robotics or anything like that, I mean, you're still very AI focused. So I don't know. It just seems like the private markets are very liquid, but it's very concentrated.
Yeah. My first thought when I read that headline, because I'm so like tuned to early stage, I don't think in the zoomed out macroeconomics unless like I don't start there. I start at like early stage startup. And my first thought was like, wow, what a huge amount of like distributed investment. And then I was like, oh no, it's actually so concentrated, which yes, makes total sense. And also like if you're hedging, if you're like monitoring the market, whatever bets you're making, just know that like we have fewer baskets, fewer eggs and fewer baskets means, lots of risk, like concentrated risk. So I think maybe that's what I took away from it. But other than that, they see no wall, right? Like there is no wall. Yeah, I mean, on the next story, if we keep going here, Apple's AI hardware play, like Apple kind of, I don't know. I came into this thinking of it through the OpenClaw lens, but Nick, was there another route that you wanted to kick this off?
No, that's my take. That this Apple, I believe, is seeing a real space for them to get into this AI ecosystem because they've been absent. Obviously, they're not training their own models. They license themselves with. Yeah, not to, right. And they signed a licensing deal with Google for Gemini to power Siri. And what has occurred is that their hardware is built on a oh gosh, what's it called? I'm blanking on the acronym. The
UME is a unified memory architecture.
No, unified memory architecture. Thank you. The UMA.
UMA, yeah.
Yeah, the UMA. So the memory inside their computers, whether it's a Mac Mini or a Studio, or they also released their new Neo computer, which is at a $599 price point, which is super cheap for them, obviously. This unified memory architecture is fantastic for running AI locally. So instead of using an API and calling something that's up in the cloud, they can run models locally much more efficiently, much faster than on a Windows computer or in Linux. And so they're seeing, I mean, if you go and try and order a Mac Studio or a Mac Mini off of their website right now, there's something like a 8 to 12 week delay in shipping right now. You can't get one because everyone's buying these things, and it's directly related to the explosion of OpenClaw. If you don't know, OpenClaw is essentially a 24/7 agent that runs on your computer, and you interact with it through some chat app like WhatsApp or a Telegram or whatever. And it's kind of the first real world example of this.
We got to run it right here.
Hey, yeah, exactly. He's got a laptop over there, although it's on a Windows machine. So although it shouldn't matter because right,
yeah,
you're using an API, so you don't need the unified memory to run inference locally very quickly.
Yep.
But essentially, it's your agent that runs 24/7 on a dedicated computer, or can run on a dedicated computer. And if you want to do things locally, Apple hardware is so much better for that. And so, I mean, there's some debate around that. Do you need that? Why not use an API call or something like that? But I think that man, if they are not taking this seriously as a play, they're a hardware company. They need something, and no one is excited about the iPhone. No one's excited about Siri. So this is something that's just very interesting for them.
Yeah. Nick and I put this story back to back with the 189 billion investment, because another way to look at the investment story, or the economic story, macroeconomic story, is like, this will continue. They see no wall. Will continue until something changes. One thing that could change is if models get smart enough but stay small enough to run locally. That could completely change the ecosystem of OpenAI and Anthropic being these massive conglomerate API intelligences versus distributing them, far and wide to the edge, and where they actually perform compute at the edge. And so, yeah, I don't think it's Apple making a bet that that's happening. I think it's Apple being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And they really, it could benefit. Like, if that's how this goes, they'll be lucky. I don't know how else to frame it. It's like, if you haven't invested on all this, like, core, like, they're not putting out transformer level papers, like, that's Google doing that research, or that's the other places doing that research. I know Apple, has a division that doesn't make the news a lot, but yeah, I just think, like, that's maybe one way the world can change without needing AI to, like, fall on its face. It could just be that it's more distributed. Yeah, I don't know. Apple's present and accounted for in some way in the AI conversation now.
Absolutely. So just so you know, I actually switched the order of one of the stories because I think it's actually really relevant to what we're talking about here. And it is the running of local models. So that's what we're talking about. That is largely, almost exclusively, I mean, it has to be done basically with open source models. And where are open source models coming from? But China. China, their entire strategy is around open source models, whether that's DeepSeek, Kimi, Quen, etc. All these different releases. I mean, Meta stopped making Llama open source. They've shifted. They're working on their, I forget what it's called, Beast or whatever. We'll see later this year. And so when it comes to running models on your computer on Apple hardware, I would say we're essentially talking about running Chinese open source models. And so there's a whole interplay of the safety and privacy around that. There's a worry about potential backdoors being written by Chinese models. LLMs are known to be able to write secrets and code in a way, I don't mean like JavaScript or PHP code, but like literally like create their own code so that other people can't understand what's going on, only they can, and things like that. And so there's this worry about Chinese models. Anyways, the story that I'm bringing up is that there is a delay on DeepSeek V4, and DeepSeek is the largest and most performant Chinese model that exists right now. There's this delay. It's interesting. Is it strategic or is it a sign of trouble? And we don't have, or at least I don't have too much to say about it, but it's just something that we will definitely be watching. I mean, the entire Chinese open source space for sure. And then the interplay between using them on Apple architecture, running them locally, as opposed to paying expensive fees to the OpenAI's and Anthropics of the world, and what that means for those companies, their ability to spend money, raise money, etc.
I mean, this is not the open source philosophy podcast episode, but it just strikes me as so interesting that, like, open source seems almost more democratic in a way. Right? Like it seems like Balaji's win and help win mindset. As I've heard China's strategy described, is like, hey, do great work, put it out there, and share for the rest of your peers to do great work with. DeepSeek V3, my understanding, and this is, the layer past my, like, I am not an AI researcher. I am not building AI systems at their, at the transformer level. My understanding is that DeepSeek V3 just was really artistic in how it, like, tuned performance out of the model. And because it was open source, everyone else in the industry was able to learn from it, including all the US labs and companies. And if DeepSeek V4 is able to push the envelope with such a small amount of, relative costs, I mean, I think it was like I don't know, a couple orders of magnitude cheaper to get
It's
like
debated, but that's the claim. Yeah.
98%. Right. That was the claim. So if they claim that again in V4 and they come out with all these new like hacks and tips and tricks to like squeeze more and more juice, A, everyone will learn from it because it's open source, but B, it'll be really interesting to like what are they drinking in the water at the DeepSeek offices that are like giving them these advantages. So I don't know. Competition is good as far as I'm concerned. That's like a underlying axiom for all the trickle down value we get.
And once again, a fantastic segue into our next story, which is that AI regulation in America is heating up. So someone coming in and trying to say what AI can and can't do. The major story that I saw recently was that the state of Tennessee has proposed a bill in the Senate to criminalize AI. That is actually, let me get the language right here. I have some links up. They want to criminalize AI that it knowingly trains AI to develop an emotional relationship, act as a companion, or offer emotional support through open-ended conversations. And that is in direct conflict with the Trump administration's executive order that went into effect in December. And I have that language up here too, or it's in thank you, Google AI overview of it, which is the order seeks to override state-level AI laws, establish an attorney general-led task force to challenge restrictive state regulations, and potentially withhold federal funding, such as for broadband, for non-compliant states, which is punitive and very Trumpian. And then essentially it leads to the question around what is good, what is optimal for AI regulation at this moment in time. I don't know. I kind of throw it to you, Jesse. Do you have any thoughts on this, specifically to this bill, the regulation space in general, or anything?
Yeah, I mean the two things, maybe macro, micro, or I don't know how they slice out, but like you said it a while ago, is like the Trump administration's position is clear. They are going to let the market run as fast as they can. They see it as the geopolitical race that in many ways it, rightly is, in my opinion.
Actually, can I interject really quickly?
Please.
Something that I think two things are true at once here. I think that is partially true. And then I also see them putting their thumb on the scale, like for real, by either, really this OpenAI Anthropic fight that we saw that we talked about at the beginning of this episode, like, is a real space because okay, so it's David Sachs is the most important sort of opinionated AI person in the administration. He's the AI and crypto czar, and he, reportedly, I don't know, we don't know any of these people, but reportedly very much does not like Dario Amodei at Anthropic, and has these different relationships. He's Elon Musk's best buddy, right? And that has its own flavor in all of these fights and ins and outs. And XAI was surprisingly quiet during that entire fight, which is very interesting. Elon was very quiet, didn't say a word. At least I didn't see it. And they have their government contract, wasn't talked about or touched at all. And now OpenAI has their government contract. So it's like the market will decide, but really it's that Trump will decide. It's that he's kind of like with everything else. He wants people to come and pay homage to him, and he likes the people that are nice to him. And that's more the story that I see with it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I threw a lot at you there and left the story and went elsewhere. So,
no, it is. I think the conversation naturally gravitates to that. It's like the administration's take is such a tone-setting, like it is the elephant in the room that you have to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I think states. Tennessee's a red state, right? Like,
yeah,
a red state going up again. I think. I had this question a while ago, and I think it was around the presidential election, was like, when will we see AI as one of, if not the top political posture? And we didn't. It wasn't the top, this previous one, but it could be. It's inching closer to that between Anthropic and us going to war, like in through the lens of AI being used and weaponry. And I mean, Trump said, now who knows if this is, this is 4 days old or whatever, but like his goal is victory with no boots on the ground. Well, that requires a lot of autonomy at play.
Hmm.
And so like, I don't know, it's possible that, if AI is the, you know, net productivity economic engine, it will become the political playing field. And so regulation, I don't know. If you zoom in on this specific story, I don't see the states doing anything. I don't see the states really, like California will try and some of the bigger ones will try, but like it's too hard. And the thing I brought up with I know this is supposed to be in our quick hit section, but like the language of training the AI, it's against
Hmm.
training the AI in the state. That's like specific language that in a court would be completely like beat up to death. And we didn't train this in the states. We trained it everywhere. That we trained less than 1% of our model in your state, so we should be fine, right? Like
I actually I don't think it's about training in state. I could be wrong. I do have some language up here. It's the definition of training is broad, encompassing the development of LLMs when the developer knows the model will be used for the purposes that we talked about earlier, which is
yeah,
the developing an emotional relationship, acting as a companion, offering emotional support. Um, and I will say a background thing to this is that there was that tragic story recently of the man who there's a lawsuit going on with Gemini and a man who was claimed to have been tried to be pushed to create mass casualty and ended up committing suicide. And so, and we've seen other people commit self-harm and suicide and whatnot because of relationships with different agents and AI. So, I mean, it's definitely an important space. But on this specific topic, I agree with you. As long as the Trump administration is in place, they're simply just going to dare states to go against them, and then they'll be punitive against them if they try anything. And that's how it's going to go for some years now. And I think that's a good place to take it to our last story. And I actually lost the tab here. It is okay. Anthropic and Mozilla worked to get together, and Claude found 22 Firefox vulnerabilities. And this is just one story that in a space that is actually much broader. And it's that with AI, because of how good they are becoming at software engineering, that obviously means that they're good at understanding code and finding security vulnerabilities. And we are finding security vulnerabilities, including many 0 days, meaning a 0 day is a vulnerability that has been there since the day it was launched and the company didn't know about it. There are some of the like most dangerous vulnerabilities. Many 0 days. Claude especially is doing this, that they are finding all these security vulnerabilities, and it is showing us how vulnerable, I'm saying vulnerable too much right now, we are and software is, and that it's a good thing that we're catching them, and that it is great in the hands of good faith actors, and it is terrible in the hands of people who want to do us harm.
yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, good guys versus bad guys is always the name of the game, and it's always a one-upsmanship of, oh, they got in a back door, they found an exploit, let's patch it, let's block it, let's learn from it, let's patch others. Okay, it's harder to get in, now let's go find something, let's get creative. It's always this one-upsmanship. I don't think that, I mean, that's like game theory. That's like, I don't know. I don't know that is like gonna change. It's kind of like part of the Anthropocene or something. Like it's just natural to like how humans behave and the kind of competitive nature. But I am an optimist generally, and specifically in this instance, that like plugging software into a good faith AI security machine is going to be a net positive for security. It's going to be a net um, um, like positive in an automation sense. Like, even at the individual layer, I want the AI to manage my passwords for me, like a good faith AI. You've talked about like the most secure version locally and passkeys and all of that. I'm saying for the average individual to not manage the password stuff, people will trust it to do that. It will happen at scale. I'm very confident. Whether you do or not, whether I do or not, whether you should or not.
Yeah.
But
don't do that with Claude Code right now or anything. Don't give them all your passwords. Stop. Don't do that.
Yeah. Then OpenClaw and all of this.
No.
But I do think that it's the little anecdote I said before. We're learning about Blitzy, that company that like refactors legacy code bases. Oh, it's in Fortran or COBOL, and we just couldn't afford the engineers. There's only 12 of them alive who speak the language, and we're never going to do this. And so we just keep limping along with these legacy systems. I think all systems are legacy systems if they were purely human created. Now you hook them into your flavor of synthetic intelligence, and of coding simulation, and just let those things. The smarter they get, the faster they refactor, the more they cover. I don't know. I'm maybe downweighting the black hat nature of what's possible, but I think it's a good thing.
I'll end here with an old but simple quote. It's easier to make a mess than clean it up. So we will see.
That's entropy. That is a
right
quote.
Right. I think that covers it. I think we should call it quits here for today. Jesse, thank you for chatting with me as always. And if you've made it this far, please like, share, subscribe, comment. If you have any questions or thoughts on anything we talked about, hit us up in the comments, please. Everything is a great signal to the algorithm, lets this episode get spread. And thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.